Hello, everybody. It is my great pleasure to welcome Ksanati to our conference. Ksanati is himself organizes the Parashar Astrology Conference annually, and this year with Dr. Harness, he's going to organize the Parashar Sedona Astrology Conference in August. Dennis spoke about that on Monday. Ksanati, it's such a pleasure to welcome you. You are the next generation of the astrologers, and you've taken the realm with organizing the conference and very successful conference. I think we are on year three, and now you'll go on to year four next year, plus the in person conference. So, welcome, 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 and over to you.
Namaste, Komilla ji. It's such an honor and pleasure to be here with you, knowing you for so many years now and developing a personal friendship after years of just looking up to you as one of the most amazing astrologers in the world. And now we have a professional relationship, we have a friendship, and this is very meaningful to me. So to be able to present at this Young Talents Conference, it's a great honor for me, and I'm very, very excited. I'm going to be presenting on the topic of Mahadasha Metamorphosis, which is about the Purusharthas and Dasha Transfiguration. Now, the first thing I want to say is that the way that I was taught Jyotish was through Shruti, which is an oral tradition of Jyotish, in which we do look at texts like the Brihat Parashara or Shastra, Jaimini, and all sorts of different texts. Um, but I feel that, as a collective, Jyotish, we've gotten away from this oral tradition, and this was the tradition in which Jyotish flourished in. So, as far as my teachings go, I'm going back to Shruti. So, I will not be using any PowerPoint. I will not be using any slides. I will not be using any documents. This is all oral transmission. And the reason that I'm approaching it this way is because while we study the science of Jyotish, it is really the Jyotir Vidya, the divine energy of Jyotish, which moves through us as proper channels to be able to facilitate the eyes of the Vedas. So I'm just praying that, as I start doing more of these Shruti, these oral tradition approach to teaching, that it's received well by the community because it's something I'm very excited about. So basically, I would like to start with some chanting to my guru Amma. And then when the chanting is complete, I will start with my beginning of my oral transmission, which is going to focus on the Purusharthas and Dasha. And then we'll get into the Graha transfiguration element of it. Oh. Twameva matacha pita twameva bandhu sasaka twameva vijja dravanam twameva sarvam amriteshwariye nama, twameva sarvam amriteshwariye nama. Twameva Sarvam Mata Amritananda Mahima. Maharani ki Jai Hari Om Om Namah Shivaya. Namaste, all viewers and Komilla ji. Such an honor and pleasure to be here. So, what is Mahadasha Metamorphosis? See, my perspective on Jyotish, and this is something my late uncle Durgadas, who recently just passed away, he used to always say this: the universe is conspiring for your happiness. The universe is conspiring for your happiness. What do I mean by that? I believe that all of the planets and God is a greater creation above all of the planets is trying to manifest karma pulam, the ripening of karma, so that we may evolve as souls, right? So my perspective on Jyotish is both an evolutionary approach in which all of the Navagraham in their various nakshatra are creating karma palam to help us evolve, which is to actualize our full potential. Within this framework is also that the Navagrahas are here to help us facilitate our potential to achieve the Vedic four aims of life: Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. These are the Purusharthas, or the four purposes of life, as it is traditionally written in the Vedas. So I always feel that every Vedic astrologer, it's really quite simple. They should have the exact same purpose and intention to help you achieve the Vedic four aims of life. But there is an initial or the primary aim of life, and there is the ultimate aim of life. Dharma being the primary aim of life, and moksha being the ultimate aim of life. But actually, all four aims of life are considered equal to each other. There's a great slokam that I like to use to describe this. Damarta kama mokshinam aroga mula mutamam rogas tasyaha paraha srayasho jiva tasya cha. And that is to say that all four aims of life are considered equal to each other. They are sequential, which means they happen in order, but they're not linear. They don't happen one after each other. And there's no achieving the Vedic four aims of life unless you have balance of the doshas, which is Vata Pitta Kapha, in order to be able to achieve the four aims of life. So this is a very profound and meaningful sloka that points at the value of the four aims of life and our alignment of body, mind, and spirit in order to be able to achieve them. So how can Jyotish help this? And what is the role of the Vedic astrologer to help their client? See, we could live in a world where everything is so flashy. So if you tell someone when they're going to get married, or you tell someone when they're going to get rich, or you tell someone, when they're going to, um, you know, get a dog or have a child. This is beautiful skill that you can do through Jyotish. But that is not the purpose of being Jyotish. That is, in my opinion, showing off. See, because it's not therapeutic, it's just showing off to say, oh, well, this is predictive, and this is predictive, and this is predictive. But what is the true value of being a Jyotish? It's to help your client achieve Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. And so my lecture today will give us a bit of understanding in how we can see these four aims of the chart. And I'm going to take you on a 120-year journey through the dashas to help you understand how one folds into the other and what aims of life it's affecting, so that we can understand how we can utilize the dasha system as well as the planets that are influent, the houses and positions that are influenced by the dasha and its lord, so that we can help our client achieve the four aims of life. Because if we're not helping our clients align to our primary aim of life, dharma, or the ultimate aim of life, moksha, then I'm not sure that you have the right career choice. So again, you can tap into Artha, you can tap into Kama, you can tap into Moksha, but you can't achieve their full potential unless first you align to Dharma. Dharma, which is the life purpose or the destiny. But I like to think of it more pejoratively, which is we all come into this universe with a certain frequency. We come into this universe with a certain energy. We come into this universe with a certain vibe. And connected to that vibe is what I like to refer to as a personality spectrum, which is going to include a whole bunch of strengths, and it's going to include a whole bunch of weaknesses or challenges. So essentially, Dharma is not a specific career or anything like this, but Dharma is the actualization of ourself on an evolutionary level, which is to know thyself, which is to understand from what are your strengths so that you can empower yourself through them, and to understand what your weaknesses and challenges are in this lifetime so you can work past or through them. When we have some alignment to the Dharma, it can set us up to achieve the full potential in the other aims of life, including Artha, which many consider the financial prosperity and the material success. And yes, it does have to do with the money and how we earn it. But I think on a deeper spiritual level, from a therapeutic approach, when a Jyotish is helping align their client to Arthabhava, it's not about when will I get rich. It's about how can I be an independent, autonomous, self-providing for individual? And if I am truly blessed in this area, how can I help provide for maybe a partner and maybe a child? And if I am truly blessed in this area, is the work that I'm doing, is it fulfilling? That is what Arthabhava is really about. The third aim of life, Kama, is about the fulfillment of our soul's dreams, passions, and desires. And this really varies a lot person to person because it's not like any two people have the exact same dreams. But it is up to the Jyotish to be able to understand the true heart's desires of the native or the client in which they are looking at the chart and to help them achieve those things as long as it is within the will of God. But there are certain things we have in common. Many people want to get married. Many people, want to have many children. Many people have want to travel the world. If you have like a skill or hobby, your common is to fulfill that. If you have an athletic ability or you want to become a yoga professional or a musician, I mean, many of these things fall under Kama Baba. And then the ultimate aim of life, which it is the ultimate responsibility of every Jyotish. This is what every single human being on life is working towards, is moksha, which is liberation, which is transcendence, which is enlightenment. And yeah, it sounds nice for the spiritual person, but guess what? It's inherently quite painful because it has a lot to do with non attachment. It has a lot to do with loss. It has a lot to do with pain and suffering. I mean, usually the most thing that our soul is inclined to be attached to, that's ultimately what the divine and the planets and God is going to make us let go of so that we can evolve. So it's the nature of our suffering and how we cope with this. So then, how is Dasha related to this? So I'm going to take you on a little journey here to understand how the planets are influencing these different aims of life, as well as the Dasha, so we can get into a little bit of vibration to understand what is the power of Dasha transfiguration. Now, of course, the first nakshatra is Ashwini nakshatra. This is where the whole Dasha system begins. And so first we will tap into the 7-year Ketu Dasha in order to understand what is the energy of this Dasha, what type of aims of life does it generally influence, and then also as it moves to the Venus Dasha, what is that metamorphosis, what is that transfiguration feels like. Now, in honor of Shruti, which I believe is, what I'm trying to practice right now, which is the oral tradition of Jyotish, I will start with the great slokam toward Lord Ketu so that we can properly assimilate and digest these energies. Palas puspa sankasham takarahar grahamastakam raudram raudrachmikam goram tam Ketu pranamamyaham. Palas puspa shankasham takara grahamastakam raudram raudrachmikam goram tam Ketu pranamamyaham. Palas puspa sankasham takara grahamastakam raudram raudrachmikam goram tam Ketu pranamamyaham. Red like the Palasha flower, who makes the starry-eyed constellation set. Ketu is terrible and awesome. And we bow down to you, Ketu, who presents us obstacles. O Lord Ketu, we worship you, who presents obstacles. So then as we get into the Ketu vibration, which is that 7 years, and don't worry, we'll go from Mercury to Ketu at the end when we get there. So if you're understanding why we're starting with Ketu, it's because it's Ashwini. that the Ketu vibration, go back to Ketu is the one who presents obstacles. Ketu is terrible and awesome, right? I love that description of K2. K2 has signification with the 12th house. Now, of course, it matters where K2 is placed in the chart, but to understand the oral shruti of this, we're looking at it from this deeper perspective of the graha itself. And we know that K2 has signification of the 12th house, and K2 is considered the moksha karaka. So Ketu, it presents obstacles. So the 12th house and the moksha energy of Ketu Dasha, that's what of all of the Purusharthas, we understand that Ketu, there are exceptions. If Ketu's in the 10th house, of course it can be Artha. But you have to understand that there is a moksha element of it too. And that is the aim of life that Ketu as a graha is helping push you towards. So, we understand the Ketu as the entering of moksha. It is the one that revocates our attachments, right? So it is helping us evolve. It is helping us get to samadhi. Ultimately, perhaps Ketu is helping get to mahasamadhi by showing us that where our attachments are. But many people think that, where their K2 is placed, oh, well, it's going to be easy not to be attached to that area. And guess what? It's just not true. Actually, it can show where we have the most attachment where K2 is. But in order for us to evolve, which remember, the Jyotish's role is to help the client evolve, is to look at where the K2 is positioned and help us to evolve beyond past it. K2 is in the second house of the native. The Jyotisha should push them evolving past material attachment. K2 is in the seventh house, past romantic or interpersonal marriage attachment. K2 in the 10th house, move them away from their attachment to their career, their ego identity. K2 in the ascendant. So we have to understand that Ketu Dasha, from an energetic perspective, the Purushartha that it's mainly activating is Moksha Bhav, Moksha Stan. And from this perspective, to understand the transfiguration that's going on, when someone's in Ketu Dasha, they can be very detached from all other aspects of their chart. If they're too attached, it's usually going to create suffering because K2 will create obstacles during its dasha, certain challenges. K2 in the seventh house, you have issue with the spouse. K2 in the second house, you have money issues. K2 in the 10th house. Now, the thing is if you're aligned to a higher vibrational element of it, you might not have these issues, but still, more often than not, you will have to deal with lessons of non attachment in whichever house and whichever nakshatras this K2 is in your chart, you will have to deal with moksha related energies in that area, especially during a Mahadasha or an Antardasha of Ketu. So, as we're understanding this more, you know that when you're in this Ketu Dasha, that it's hard for you to hold on to things because one of the things that it says in the ancient text about Ketu is that it will give you something just to take it away because that's how we relinquish our attachment. That's how we get closer to moksha. It's easy to be not attached to something that you've never had. But to have something and lose it is to create an energy of moksha, is to bring us closer to God through the suffering. And we all know that the meek shall inherit the earth. So it is with this divine energy that we understand that K2, it gives us obstacles, and we might recognize those things as obstacles because, yeah, we're humans in the Kali Yuga that want power, that have egos, that want money, that want to, have our, reputations all fluffed up, and we all have this egocentric position. But then K2 will take us out of this. It will humble us. It will reduce our attachment. So before we move on to the next level of this journey, I hope that everyone is feeling that first 7 years of Ketu Dasha through this little story of Dasha Transfiguration that I'm going to take you on. We understand now from our experience of the 7 years Ketu that of the Purusharthas, moksha has been truly aligned to. So then, how does this transition to Venus Dasha, which is 20 years long, how is that going to feel? See, there's something called Dasha Sandhi, which is usually, there's many different definitions of Dasha Sandhi, but many people consider it the last Antardasha or the first on or the first when the Mahadasha is the same, like Mercury, Mercury, Venus, Venus. That's also considered Dasha Sandhi. So it's the period from the last um, Antardasha of the previous dasha to the double Maha Antardasha of the next. And see, people are like, "Oh, this is actually a beautiful part of my lecture." And if part of the Shruti is you never know when the energy is going to come through. And this is such a key thing that I was reflecting on in my meditation earlier. And I tell my clients this all the time. See, you think that when one dasha begins and another one ends, that the other one is over and that the new one is totally taking place. My experience as a Jyotish is it does not work that way. It's not like when you begin a new dasha, the old dasha just disappears. Because what the dasha system is showing is karma poem. It's the ripening of karma for you to evolve, for you to experience that and achieve that aim of life, for you to learn the lessons that are associated with that dasha. But it's not like when lesson opportunities come up in our life, then all of a sudden those lessons disappear just because another lessons come in. No, we always have so many coinciding lessons that God and the divine and the Navagraham and Vishnu and Shiva and Brahma and all of their avatars are trying to teach us at all times. So I think of it more like a percentage thing, right? Like, okay, so you're in the Saturn Jupiter Dasha and you're about to go into Mercury Dasha. Well, I believe that when you enter double Dasha of the new Dasha, that's just 51%. You still have the other 49% of the previous dasha that you were in. And as you get closer towards the end of that first Maha Antar, which in this case would be double Mercury ending, that is when the percentage of the previous dasha of Shani becomes less. So you go from double Mercury to Mercury Ketu, and the Maha and the previous Saturn energy goes down from maybe 49% on the day of double Mercury. Now, see, it doesn't end. It just gets smaller and smaller because, as this whole lecture is supposed to teach you, the energy of the previous dasha, that is the transfiguration. It is always with you forever, for the rest of your life. Once you've experienced dasha, it is within you. It is not going anywhere. I don't care if you were born in Mars Dasha. By the time that you're in Sun Dasha, you'll still have that 2%. You'll still have that 5% of Mars Dasha. Because once you have experienced the aim of life, which is associated with the Dasha, it cannot be taken out of your soul's experience. So this is an important thing to understand with Mahadasha Metamorphosis and Dasha Transfiguration, regardless of the four aims of life, regardless of the Purusharthas. It's important to understand that it's not like one Dasha begins and another is over. Okay, so you're in Mercury, Mercury Dasha. So now it's only 49% Saturn. So then you go into Mercury Ketu, and it's only 25% Saturn. And then you go into the next Mercury Antardasha, and it's only 23% Saturn. And by the time that you're done your Mercury Dasha and you're entering your Ketu Dasha, guess what? There's still about 5% of Saturn Dasha still lingering in your spirit, still lingering in your soul. So I hope I made my point there about Mahadasha Metamorphosis and Dasha Transfiguration, as it is in terms of one dasha ending and another begins. No, it's not so black and white like this. They are just specific milestones of the time, milestones of the percentage. So as we move away from the Ketu Dasha and we move into the Venus Dasha, which is 20 years long, I'm going to do a little chant of Venus so we can help understand the energy as we move into the Venus Dasha. Himakunda Manalavam Daichanam Paramam Gurum Sarva Shastra Pravaktaram Bhargavam Pranamamyam Himakunda Manalavam Daichanam Paramam Gurum Sarva Shastra Pravaktaram Bhargavam Pranamamyam Himakunda Manalavam Daichanam Paramam Gurum Sarva Shastra Pravaktaram Bhargavam Pranamamyaham. Like sandalwood and jasmine that have been crushed. The foremost guru of the forces of duality, who expounds all the scriptures to the descendants of Brigu. We bow down in devotion to you. We bow down in devotion to you, Shukra, who represents love and attachment. Wow, this is such a beautiful mantra that gives me absolute chills. So we've just gone from the dasha of non-attachment to the dasha of attachment. Well, there you go, God. Thanks. So this is what happens from Ketu. This is a perfect example of why the universe is conspiring for your happiness. Because by the end of Ketu Dasha, you're so exhausted with not having anything stay. Everything's been changing. Everything come and goes, relationship come and go, money come and go, job come and go. Well, here comes Venus Dasha, and you actually get to have things stay. You actually get to experience joy. You actually get to, there can be health problems in Ketu. Venus is Ojas. You actually get to experience immunity. You actually get to experience the pleasures of life. And I'd like to think I'm laughing because I think that God is so funny sometimes. I think that there is this beautiful thing that is happening here in which that God is rewarding you with 20 years of Venus because you've had to go through 7 years of K2. I mean, not everything about K2 is bad, especially, it depends on the K2 placement, like in everything. It always depends. But a lot of my clients they're like, when is going to be my Venus Dasha? Like, I just can't wait for it. I can't take any more of K2, you know? And then the thing is with that previous thing I mentioned, like, well, when Venus Dasha starts, it's just 51%, and K2 is 49%. And even the nodes, Rahu and K2, they have a hangover effect. So actually, as they get into the dashas away from Rahu and K2, it weans off of lower. So again, it lasts a little bit longer, the Rahu K2 effects of the dasha into the next dasha. But anyway, to move forward with understanding this Venus energy. It mentions in this beautiful slokam that Venus is the emblem of love and attachment. So, what type of Purushartha effect can we see here? Right? Well, we know that Venus has signification in the second bhava. We know that's Taurus's house. Venus has signification on the seventh bhava. That is Libra's house. So there's a little bit of a combination here of Venus Dasha, its general energy having a Artha Bhava effect and a Kamabhava effect. So we just have to understand though that we just came from Ketu, which is primarily a moksha parushart dasha. Now we go into Venus Dasha and we get to experience life again. And it's not like, there's this huge responsibility coming from Dharma with the Venus Dasha. No, you get to experience Artha Bhava, which is prosperity and material, and you get to experience Kama Bhava, which is hopefully going to have to do with relational experiences and love. And again, we think of love as romantic, and yes, obviously Venus is associated with this romantic love. And if you've had romantic struggles during your Ketu Dasha, I can almost guarantee that you'll have some romantic harmony during your Venus Dasha. But love is not just romantic. Sometimes friendship is the true love, because it's a friendship that's not going to, you're not a friend isn't going to break your heart and you're going to have a breakup because they cheated on you or whatever. It's not going to work that way. So actually sometimes the friendship love is, or the platonic love as it's called in philosophy, is a little more nourishing to the spirit than romantic love. But romantic love is beautiful too. I don't want to take that away from the individual. It's not just romantic. We have all sorts of interpersonal love as well. Right? We have sibling love, and we have all sorts of family, mother, parent love, and uncle, aunt love, and cousin love, and friend love. And it's not just about, oh, will you marry me forever? I think that we get too much focused on this. So the next thing that we want to look at with the Venus Dasha is, okay, so we've left Ketu, but remember it's a percentage. And now we're in Venus, and the Purushartha of Artha is activated and the Purushartha of Kama is activated. And we're dealing with love and attachment, right? So we just have to, things that Ketu gave us, it took away as it relates to love and attachment. And now we get 20 years of maybe actually able to enjoy the fruits of life, to enjoy the fruits of our labor, to enjoy abundance and prosperity and material accumulation and the finer things in life, like a really good organic chocolate, or your fancy French dinner, the best cheese fondue in the world, or you got to go to the Broadway show, and you got to go to the concert, and you got to, take a trip to the Caribbean islands. And I mean, this is what Venus Dasha is really supposed to be about, which is the celebration of life. Because during Ketu Dasha, it has taken you towards the moksha stan, which has made it harder to appreciate and enjoy the fruits of your labors, to enjoy the fruits of your life. So again, as an astrologer, as a client, as you move closer to this Venus Dasha, we have to understand the Artha and the Kama, and to work hard and play hard, and to experience this level of interpersonal juiciness. Ojas, which is the connected to Shukra, is considered to be the immunity, but it's also, ojas means juice. It's the juice of life. So squeeze the orange of life and drink of its juices, because Venus Dasha is going to be your best chance to experience this. So we've just had 20 years of Venus Dasha, and the next one is going to be upcoming is 6 years of the Sun Dasha. So what can we expect at that transitional element of Venus to the Sun Dasha? And I always like to go back to these beautiful mantras to help us understand these transitional elements. Sabakasuma Shankasham Kashapaya Mahadutim Tamorim Sarvapapanganam Pranatusmi Davakaram. Zavakasuma Sankasham Kashapaya Mahadutim Tamorim Sarvapapanganam Pranatusmi Davakaram. Javakasuma Sankasham Kashapaya Mahadutim Tamorim Sarvapapanganam Pranatusmi Davakaram. Crimson red like the hibiscus flower, the great light shines onto the earth, removing all the darkness and eradicating evil. We bow down in pure devotion to the brilliant shining light. We bow down to you, Surya, the inherent energy that dispels all ignorance. This is the perfect transition from Venus Dasha. So remember to understand that Venus Dasha, there has to do with this second house, which is enjoying the quality of life, and the seventh house. And we talked about Venus as Artha, and we talked about Venus as Kama. And now as we go into 6 years of Sun, it's time to get serious, right? Let's get serious, people. The Sun is considered a malefic, but it doesn't have to be a malefic dasha. I'll tell you that. Because, so we understand here that the Sun has signification in the Ascendant, the Sun has signification in the fifth bhava, and the Sun has signification in the 10th. So why is all the signification? Well, 1-5 or Dharma, Aries Leo. Then 10th Capricorn, which is a directional straight there. So we have to understand from this perspective here that it's mostly a Dharma Dasha. Yes, there's Arta, but it's also 10th house Arta, which is much more serious. One of the things that I like here is that, so Venus is a nice Dasha, right? But we know that Venus Dasha is about the enjoyment of life. And oftentimes, and one of the things that it said about Venus Dasha too, is that Venus is the great guru of the duality. Well, in the experience of duality, it's often hard to stay in the middle because we can variate from one side of the extreme to the other. And in that process of extreme, one of the side effects that is often common in the Venus Dasha is what in American literary terms we call hedonism, which is an attachment to pleasure, right? You've had 20 years of enjoying Artha and Kama, and you have some attachment to those things. Well, in Venus Dasha, I got $1 million, so now I want to keep that $1 million, and I'm greedy. I want more, more, more. And I've had this beautiful marriage in Venus Dasha, and regardless of if we're growing together or growing apart, I want it to last forever, and we have children, and so on and so forth. We all know this story. Well, now in Sun Dasha, one of the things that it says, Kama Kashapaya Mahadutim, Tamorim Sarvapapanganam. That means that there is going to be a removal of all darkness and an eradication of evil. And usually, in the experience of the pleasures of life, we tend to indulge, we tend to overdo it, we tend to become attached to the fruits of our labors, not karma yoga, not it's because we have an attachment to the fruit of it. Oh, well, I do this thing for my husband or wife, so I need to be appreciated. I worked this hard and I invested in this, and it needs to make me this much money. That's Venus, and that's beautiful because it's clearly part of the Dasha Transfiguration, but now we're in Sun Dasha. And in this 6 years of Sun Dasha, all aspects of evil will be eradicated from our life. And let's be honest, we're not perfect human beings. We struggle, we have challenges. So again, it's important to understand that now ignorance has been dispelled, and anything in your life that doesn't need to be there for you to, that isn't part of your Dharma, 1-5, that isn't part of your 10th house, your career potential to do something fulfilling and meaningful with your life and it to have an impact on society. Remember, the second house is the bank account statement. That's the savings. The 10th house is about your impact on the world and society and the power of your career. So again, Venus Dasha, Venus Sun Dasha could be enjoyable, but if it's not dharmic and if it's not about your 10th bhava in Arta, guess what? Sun will eliminate it. And so that's why the Sun Dasha can be considered a little bit malefic here, because we're having this understanding that whatever darkness is in our life, whatever things are overindulged in, well, now the light will come shine on the Maya and it will be dispelled. And so it's a very serious dasha in terms of the rising to our dharmic potential, the rising to our power, and the rising to a healthy sense of ego and what we are going to do with that pride and self-esteem in our life to have a positive manifestation in this world. Wow, I'm really enjoying this. I hope everyone else is too. So then, and remember, the sun dasha is the shortest dasha. Well, why is the sun dasha the shortest dasha? Well, let me tell you. That's because your ego can only grow so long. You know what I mean? Like the taller the tree, the bigger the fall. If you're just focused on self. You know what I mean? But we do have this self-fulfillment dharmic energy in our chart that is part of the Dasha transfiguration cycle. So then we move into a 10 years of the moon Mahadasha. And so, how do we understand that moon Mahadasha? Let's go towards our sloka. Dari Sankatu Sharabam Kasiro Dharna Sambhavam Namami Sashinam Somam Samormakuta Bhushanam Om Dari Sankatu Sharabam Kashiro Dharna Sambhavam Namami Sashinam Somam Sambormakuta Bhushanam Om Dani Sankatu Sarabam Kisiro Dharna Sambhavam Namami Sashinam Somam Sambormakuta Bhushanam. Creamy white, like a container of curds, and most pleasing. The moon is born from the churning of the milk ocean, and we bow down to the beautiful representation of devotion, which is an ornament on the crown of Lord Shiva. We bow down to you, Almighty Soma, the Lord and emblem of devotion. Devotion being the key word. So we just got out of this sun intense dharmic energy period, right? We just got out of all of that energy of the first house and the fifth house and the 10th house and the dharma and the career, and we're all selfed up. Oh, I'm the bomb.com because I'm aligned to my dharma and my career's going so good and I'm in touch with who I really am. And that's all fine and well. But as we go into Moon Dasha, what are you serving? Who are you serving? What are you loving? Who are you devoted to? Remember, the Sun Dasha activates the fifth house, which allows us to give birth. So oftentimes, when we consider the actual birth of children, it's not karma, it's more dharma. Because if you're meant to give birth to a child, it's a dharmic act, right? Because you're bringing this child into the world. So then it's with the moon energy that its signification is actually on the fourth house. This is interesting because the moon's energy, yes, the moon has a signification in the ascendant too. So I won't say that it's purely a moksha dasha, but here's the controversial approach to the moon. It is a moksha dasha. Because after that sun dasha, we have all this career power. We have all this self esteem and confidence and pride. We have a healthy, hopefully, healthy relationship with our ego, but we certainly got a relationship with our ego from our Sun Dasha. And then we understand through the moon, which is an ornament on Lord Shiva's crown, which is represented by consciousness. And Shiva wants to humble us and bring us closer to God. So with your career, with this dharma, with this power of bringing a kid into the world, and teaching and all that energy of the sun, what are you going to do with it? The question is devotion. The moon dasha is the dasha of family. The moon dasha is the dasha of service. The moon dasha is the dasha of parents. The moon dasha is the dasha of unconditional love. See, yes, I'm a Jyotish, but first and foremost, I'm a bhakta. I'm a bhakti yogi. My whole life I've just chanted and done kirtan, and Jyotish found me, but primarily I consider myself a bhakti yogi. And again, my moon and Venus conjunct in the ninth house. It is my path, this path of devotion, to sing to God so that God may hear me and rain the blessings of life down upon all of creation. So there is this very strong energy of the moon dasha that now you have 10 years to show your devotion. This is an important moksha because moksha is, what are we letting go of from the sun dasha? We're letting go of our ego. We're letting go of self-serving. We're letting go of, I need power, I need money. And what are you doing with it? Who are you giving it to? That is the energy of the moon dasha. And you have a nice 10-year chunk The moon is one of the quickest moving planets. But here we are, and the moon is the quickest moving planet. But here we are with 10 years of moon dasha. So understand that it's about your service and what are you devoted to and how are you manifesting that devotion. And to understand that even though the fourth house is just a subtle moksha energy, that it is a moksha energy nonetheless. So, what are you letting go of in order to serve something greater? Are you serving a service organization? Are you serving your society? Are you serving your wife or husband? Are you serving your children? Are you serving your community? Are you serving your country? Are you serving your state? What are you serving your guru? Are you praying every day? It's not Jupiter will talk is more the religious side of it. But it's really about our devotional element of service. Now we have 10 years of service to really come through here. And it's moksha to resolve our attachments so that we can be in devotion to others, not devotion to ourselves or our egos, which we have the opportunity to facilitate in the Sun Dasha. Just going to keep moving because, again, I could talk about this for 5, 6 hours, and we have 15 minutes left. So I'm going to go over here to Mars Dasha. Dharani Garbhasambhutam Vidyukanti Samaprabham Kumaram Shakti Hastam Cha Tam Mangalayam Pranamamyaham. Dharani Garbhasambhutam Vidyukanti Samaprabham Kumaram Shakti Hastam Cha Tam Mangalayam Pranamamyaham. Dharani Garbhasambhutam Vidyukanti Samaprabham Kumaram Shakti Hastam Cha Tam Mangalayam Pranamamyaham. Supporting the womb of all existence. Mars shines forth with the radiance of beauty enhanced by love. The sun is wielding pure energy in his hand. We bow down to you, Mangal, the bearer of welfare. Oh, we beloved and love you, and we bow down to you, O Mangal, the bearer of welfare. See, Mars gets a bad rap. Bhumayaha, the son of the earth, everyone is like, Mars is Krura Graha, Malefic Graha. And it's like, listen, if there's any planet you want on your side, it's Mars. Bhumayaha, the son of the earth, the original energy that Mars is here is to protect, the bearer of welfare. It gives support unto others. See, but the energy coming from Moon Dasha, it was moksha related. And there is a moksha element, but now there's a dharmic element which is associated with Mars as well. So now we're getting very interesting. See, because when we're looking at Moon, we understand that it's the fourth house energy. So it's the devotion, but it's through the home, it's through the family, it's through the inner emotional self love, right? And it goes to the age old saying is that we can only love someone else if we love ourselves. And it's out of that position of inner love and self-realization that we can actually make a positive impact on the world. See, Mars gets a bad rap, but I truly understand that the 7 years of Mars Dasha is here to help facilitate the amount of support and welfare that you can give to other people's lives. I coach high school wrestling, and my wrestlers were sitting with me the other day, and they asked me, "What's the meaning of life, coach?" I said, "The meaning of life," it's funny they asked me. I said, "The meaning of life is the amount of positive energy you can impact on the world and other people." This is Mars. This is Mangal, the auspicious one. See, there's a signification on the ascendant of Aries, and there's a signification of Scorpio on the eighth house. And we also know there's a strong signification on Mars here. In Capricorn, Mars does very well in the 10th bhava as well. So Mars is really about what are you going to do with your life? If you go down here and it looks at Mars as the sun wielding energy in his hand, Mars is pure energy, right? The moon, the fourth house is the home. In the fourth house dasha, we're in our home, growing our family, growing our, it aspects the 10th house, maybe growing our career, but it's more introverted. Now, as we go into Mars Dasha, it's about how are you positively contributing to the world. It's not just about making other people's lives better, which again is Dharma Ascendant, but that's the meaning of life, which is the eighth house, which is the mysticism, right? There's this beauty of the eighth house and Mars, which doesn't normally see this way, but Mars is a beautiful mystical planet. So we have to understand this that Mars will create a dharma, it will create a moksha, but there's also that 10th house energy. But overall, it's about can we hit people's lives with positive energy? Can we make animals' lives better? And can we make this planet a better place? See, Mars Bhumayaha, the protector of the earth. We need to protect the earth, we need to protect animals, and we need to protect humans. And this is a very beautiful mystical exploration into the actual meaning of life, is the positive impact we can have on the world and all of the creational aspects to it. Okay, so next we'll do Rahu, Ardakayam, Mahaviryam, Chandradija, Vimardinam, Simhita Garbha Sambutam, Tam Rahu Pranamamyaham. Ardakayam, Mahaviryam, Chandradija, Vimardinam, Simhita Garbha Sambutam, Tam Rahu Pranamamyaham. Ardakayam, Mahaviryam, Chandradija, Vimardinam, Simhita Garbha Sambutam, Tam Rahu Pranamamyaham. The great warrior divides even the sun and moon in half. He is born from the womb of Simhika, and we bow down in devotion to you, Rahu, who controls direction. We bow down in great devotion to you, Rahu, the one that commands direction. So we were just like in Mars, very impulsively with our Dharma and our mysticism. We were so knowing what we were going to do because Mars is impulsive and it acts, right? So then the Dasha transfiguration comes to Rahu and God starts playing a little joke on us again. And for 18 years, the joke is on us. We really don't know what we're supposed to be doing. See, the energy of Rahu is as an archer. And I like to think of this, I tell all my clients this. Rahu comes at the beginning of Rahu Dasha, and it throws a arrow up into the air. That arrow at the lands on Jupiter Dasha. And guess what? You're going straight to that arrow. But it's all fog, it's all smoke, it's all mist, it's all haze between you and that arrow. See, because Rahu is actually very interesting here. We know it has signification ascendant. We know it has signification and does well in the third bhava. And we know that it has signification and does well in the eighth bhava as well. So how do we understand sometimes the sixth bhava well? Like we know that it does well in the upachaya, you know? So understanding this energy from Mars Dasha in which we were okay, we were doing what we felt we should be doing, and the results were instant, and it was a very dharmic period, and we were accomplishing things, and moksha, the things didn't work out, we let go of it, and we transformed as a result because all that Scorpio energy. And now we're in Rahu, and it's like, huh? Where are we going? What are we doing? What am I going to do next? It's like the question mark. And that's because Rahu, even though it has signification for the ascendancy, we have to understand that it is a dharma. It is a dharma, but it is pushing us to dharma. And that is why Jupiter is the next planet, right? So I just want to make this point here that Rahu is getting very much closer to the experience of what is our Dharma. And it's that eighth house activation, and it's the upachaya, it's the self improvement energy of 3 and 6, right? So all of the aims of life are acted here in terms of the Purusharthas because of all the signification energies that are associated with Rahu. But I mainly feel that the transfiguration is about leading us to Dharma, which is the upcoming next Jupiter Dasha. But in order to deserve Dharma, we have to grow. And all of this energy of the Upachaya vibration is encouraging us to grow, right? So um, there is this evolution of Rahu Dasha from a transfiguration perspective that is pushing us in the direction that we need to go. But first, the things that are no longer serving us must be removed. And we only know by trying the next thing that we think might be a good idea, but Rahu will show us instantly if it will be a good idea or if it will be not. So the Rahu Dasha is so beautiful in terms of the Purushartha activation in which it is leading us to Dharma. But we must experience. It is the time of life in which we are going to be experiencing the most. And there are many things that you will do in Rahu Dasha that actually aren't connected to you at a soul level. But guess what? In the back of your consciousness, in the back of your soul, every soul has a bucket list. And not everything on our bucket list is something that we will continue to do, but we must experience it. And that's why the Rahu Dasha is here. So actually, people call the Rahu Dasha a Dharma, but there is no more dharmic dasha than Rahu. It is the ultimate Dharma Dasha because it will lead us to our Dharma. It is actually in the Jupiter Dasha where we get to stand in that Dharma, where we get to experience that Dharma. But the Rahu Dasha is where we get to figure out what our Dharma truly is. And the only way to find that out is by experiencing something that we think is our Dharma and it doesn't work out. So again, it's this deep mystical exploration of the meaning of life. And it's very, very different in Mars because in Mars Dasha, everything was very clear to us. But now in Rahu Dasha, it's much more about this curious investigation. Doesn't matter what time, how old you are, when you go into your Rahu Dasha, you will go through a crisis. But guess what? That arrow is leading you to your Dharma. So you will come out of that crisis on the other side much more connected to your Dharma, much more connected to the direction that you're going, so that when you get to the Jupiter Dasha, you can experience the beauty of what it is to stand in your dharma. But Rahu Dasha is probably the most exciting dasha of the whole Dasha transfiguration sequence. And it's 18 years. You get to experience a concentrated experience of life here for 18 years. And then when you get to Jupiter Dasha, it's actually kind of boring, even though it's very nice and enjoyable. You've already gone through so much challenge to find your Dharma at that point. Then when you get to the Jupiter Dasha, you really get to stand in it. So there's no way I'm going to do Jupiter, Saturn, and Mercury Dasha in the next 2 minutes. So unless I have an extension, Komilla G, I think I should probably end there. What do you think?
Sorry. I think you have to end there because we have it all organized, uh, especially Saturn. So you could just sum it up in a couple of minutes because we have a class at 5.
Sure,
Uh,
sure,
mm,
you got it. I'll do the Cliff Notes version.
yeah.
So as you move from this A Dharma period of Rahu, you go to Jupiter, in which the activations of ninth house energy and the 12th house, right? Because now you figured out who you are, and all of the different aims of life are activated during Rahu Dasha. And now you get to Jupiter Dasha, and it is Dharma primarily, because we know 1 and 9. And we also know there's an energy of the 12th house through the Pisces Rashi. So it's really about this full alignment to your divine potential, right? You are understanding the Guru Deva, the Guru self, right? In Rahu Dasha, you find out, oh, this is actually who I'm not. But just because Rahu the hard way has taught you who you're not, and now you realize who you are and the trajectory of your evolution, well, now you have to rise to the occasion and become that highest self. And guess what? You have 16 years to do it. See, we all have a guru self within us. In the beginning of Jupiter Dasha, and remember, I told you earlier, Rahu Dasha has hangover. So even in the beginning of Jupiter Dasha, it will, you are growing to understand who you need to be, right? Like what your ethics are, what your values are, what your principles are, how your relationship with God looks like. How are you connecting with God through prayer, meditation, and ritual? And then just quickly, as we get to Saturn, to understand this is the longest dasha, that no spiritual change or growth manifests without Saturn. See, I look at this transfiguration as like Rahu, Jupiter, Saturn, and there's a beautiful relationship between all these three. Because Rahu Dasha has showed us in which all of the aims of life are activated, you know, what who we're not, because we've experienced what we needed to, and we can leave what doesn't serve us. Now in Jupiter Dasha, we have the wisdom of what does serve us and how our relationship with God and the Guru looks, and we're getting closer to this. But now in Saturn Dasha, you're going to be tested. See, because Saturn is going to test you. Guess what? Saturn will bring back Rahu Dasha. Saturn will bring back Jupiter Dasha, and it will test you. It will say, oh, you think you're spiritual? Well, how about when your parent dies? Saturn is the Lord of death. How about when your sibling dies? How about then, how spiritual are you? Let's say in Rahu, this is a perfect example. In Rahu, you were a drug addict. In Jupiter Dasha, you became sober. But then in Saturn, you lose your parents. Are you going to drink or are you going to stay sober? Saturn is the Dasha which tests you. And that's why Lord Parashara says, no spiritual change or manifest without the great Shani. Because we are being tested if you can be your highest self, if you can be your ultimate self. You can only truly, when things are easy, it's easy to be in a good mood and to be the guru within yourself. But how about when you're tested with poverty, with grief, with adversity, with delays, with not getting what you want? See, this is where the Saturn period is going to grow and spiritual change and manifestation within you, so that the harsh experience you had during Rahu and the wisdom that you found in Jupiter can be fully integrated into your spirit, so that in the 11th house, which is the ultimate signification point for Saturn, is that you can align to this full potential of achieving your dreams and your passions, but only you deserve to achieve your dreams once you've been tested and you pass the test. Last thing I'll quickly mention, Mercury Dasha, you transition from Saturn to this time of being tested and adversity to a time of being extremely busy and extremely productive. We have energy of the third house. We have energy of the sixth house. We have energy of the 10th house. Again, this is Upachaya. This is a time where we are growing, where we are evolving. This is where Kama Bhava energy, as well as Artha Bhava, becomes satisfied. We can grow to intellectually manifest our vision. This is where our thoughts become settled. Now our intellect is settled, and this is the way that we will interpret things every day for the rest of our life. So as we become through the Mercury Dasha, our intellect is getting settled because we have overcome the challenges, and now it's time to be productive with our lives. We want to communicate and express, because guess what? Through Rahu, Jupiter, and Saturn, we've developed a message. Now in Mercury, it's time to express that message. And remember, the sixth house activation is service. See, Mercury Dasha, this is often misunderstood, but it's a Kama Yoga Dasha, because it's important to be of service. Because once you have a message that needs to be shared, it's a service to share that message. So it's important to understand the service oriented element and the growth element of Mercury. Now, I could have talked 3 hours about this, but just to quickly summarize it, Dasha metamorphosis is understanding that just because you go from one dasha to another, it's not like one ends and another begins. You will always bring all of the energy of the dashas that you have experienced with you into the next dasha. When a new dasha begins, the old dasha is 49%. But even when you get into the dasha that is beyond that, the one that is two dasha goes, is still 10 or 20%. The Dasha Transfiguration is that the universe, the God, the Navagrahas, they're all conspiring for our ultimate happiness. They're all conspiring to help us realize so that we can achieve Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. And so it is every astrologer's responsibility to not just show off with the prediction, but to help each of their clients and to help bring the achievement of Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, because it is this ultimate realization that it is God's will for us to achieve these four aims of life. And it is our role as an astrologer to help each of our individual clients to attain the aims of life which they are set up to achieve. So, this is just an elaboration on some of my research on Dasha Transfiguration. And I thank you, Camilla G, for allowing me to share it.
For such a brilliant and such an innovative and traditional way, both for online teaching. This is how we used to teach earlier. There was no PowerPoint, nothing. You just teach. And I mean, earlier, like in the 90s or so. But now online, you gave a lot of lovely information, Ksanati. I just want to remind everybody that Ksanati is hosting the Parashara Vedic Astrology Conference in November this year online, but in person with Dr. Dennis Harness. We are going to be going to Sedona. So I hope you can come. And thank you again. Namaste.
Thank you, thank you. And so that event will be in August. I have the dates right here. One moment, it will be August 20 to the August of the 25. And Camilla will be a lecturer. I will be lecturer. Eve Mendoza, Dr. Pi. We're still working on the final, but each of us will have a whole day to lecture.
Mm.
So we're going to have a whole day of lecturing, a whole day. Each faculty member will have a whole day to show their research. And so it's going to be very exciting to have these intensive times. And I'm going to be doing Shruti, oral tradition on all of the nakshatras there. So I'm very excited.
And Varapon and Rebecca both have appreciated what you have spoken. And thank you. Sorry to rush you because, we have a Saturn schedule.
Yeah. It's that Mercury
So all
Dasha
the
of mine.
best.
I could
Thank
keep
you.
talking. Yes. Thank you so
Yeah,
much,
I know.
Camilla G. I love you.
Thank you. Thank you.